This story begins with a man who had nothing left to lose, which is exactly the kind of man the world never sees coming. Tennyson was 28 years old. He had 40 naira in his pocket. He had not eaten in over a day. He was walking a road in Ogun State that stretched ahead of him like a sentence with no ending, chasing a rumor of farm work that a man at a motor park had passed along with the confidence of someone who had never confirmed a single thing in his entire life. The road was empty. The sun had baked the dirt into something that felt like walking on dried bone. And then he saw them. 4 black bags sitting in the middle of the road like they had simply fallen out of the sky. One of them had split open at the seam. He saw what was inside before his mind fully caught up to what his eyes were telling him. Bundled dollars. The kind of money that does not just change a situation. The kind that rewrites the entire story of a person's life in a single afternoon. He stood completely still. And then he heard a sound from the bush 10 meters to his right. Not an insect. Not a bird. Something small and strained and unmistakably human. What he did next is the part nobody would believe if they had not seen who this man was before this moment. Tennyson had not always been walking empty roads. 14 months before that afternoon, he had been running a small logistics company in Mushin. He had built it the right way, carefully in the correct order. 2 motorcycles first, then 1 van, then 3. He understood that in logistics, the order of things is everything. You do not buy the van before the clients are there to fill it. You do not take the loan before the revenue is stable enough to hold it. He had gotten the order wrong just once, and it had cost him everything. The 3rd van came before the client base was solid enough to carry it. 3 of his biggest customers moved to a larger firm that undercut his rates in the same month the loan came due. He sold 2 vans to cover the debt, lost the capacity, lost the clients, and watched the last van get repossessed on a Tuesday morning while he stood in his own compound and could do nothing but watch. He came home to his wife Amaka sitting at the kitchen table with her hands flat on the surface the way she sat when she had already decided something and was only waiting to say it out loud. She said she could not do it anymore. She took their daughter Chisholm and went to Abba. He paid the last month on the flat, packed what he could carry in a plastic bag, and walked out into 14 months that would have broken most people completely. In those 14 months, he had not stolen a single thing. Not when the hunger had a shape to it. Not when items sat unguarded in markets and the calculation would have been simple and the risk nearly nothing. He had never taken what was not his. It was not a decision he made fresh each time. It was simply the kind of man he was. Some routes run straight and some bend. He had been built straight. And the years, even the worst of them, had not managed to bend him. He crouched beside the split bag. He looked up the road. Empty. He looked back down the road. Empty. He thought about the van being repossessed. He thought about Amaka's hands on the table. He thought about Chisholm asking on the phone when she was coming to visit him, and him having no answer to give. He thought about 40 naira. He thought about all of it without flinching, the way a man thinks when he has learned that looking clearly at a hard thing is the only honest response to it. And then the sound came again from the bush, small, strained, human. He left the bags exactly where they were and walked toward it. She was 10 meters off the road, lying on her side, one arm stretched ahead of her. She had been trying to crawl toward the road. She had run out of strength before she got there. She was badly injured and clearly needed help. Her phone was gone. One of her shoes was missing. But her eyes found him the moment he crouched beside her, sharp and present, the eyes of a woman whose mind had not gone quiet even though her body was failing. He pressed his hand against her side and held steady, the way he had seen a foreman do once at a construction site, keeping a man alive by doing exactly that and saying almost nothing. She did not cry out. She had been attacked and robbed earlier that day, she told him. They took what looked valuable and left. He glanced back toward the road at the bag still sitting there in the open. Not everything, he said. Something moved across her face. Relief so complete it looked almost like pain. He did not debate what to do next. The decision had already been made, not on this road and not on this afternoon, but across 14 months of having nothing and not taking what was not his. You do not undo that kind of man in a single afternoon, just because the arithmetic suddenly changes. It took 20 minutes to get her to the road. He half carried her, his arm around her waist, her arm across his shoulders. At the road, he helped her sit against the base of a tree and gave her the small bottle of water from his plastic bag. She drank from it carefully. Then she looked at the bags and looked at him. "You did not take them," she said. "No, why?" "Because they are not mine." She was quiet for a moment. She looked at him the way he had learned in a previous life that certain people look when they are reading something beneath the surface of what is visible. He emptied his plastic bag without ceremony. His change of clothes, the small Bible his mother had given him, the notebook where he tracked his daily expenses. He repacked the split bag's contents into his plastic bag, every single note. He did it methodically, the way he had once packed delivery manifests, everything counted and nothing left behind. When he looked up, she was still watching. Something in her face had shifted, the way things shift when a person has just confirmed something they were not completely certain of until that exact moment. They walked 7 kilometers to the nearest village. 7 kilometers is a particular kind of distance, long enough that you exhaust the surface things and start saying true ones instead. She asked about the logistics company. He told her without self-pity. The vans, the loan, the order he had gotten wrong. He told it the way he analyzed it when he lay awake at night, not with bitterness, but with the precise attention of a man trying to understand exactly where the route had failed, so he would never fail it the same way again. "What would you do differently?" she asked. "Lock in the clients first," he said. "Written contracts, then use those contracts as collateral for the loan rather than the business plan alone." She nodded slowly. "That is the correct order," she said. The village had a clinic. The doctor happened to be there. She received treatment and was stable. Tennyson sat in a plastic chair outside and waited with the bags at his feet. When the nurse said she was asking for him, he went in. She was sitting up, the sharpness fully returned. Her security team was 2 hours out. She looked at him and asked him to sit down. Then she asked him the question. "If you had not heard me," she said, "if you had walked past without knowing I was there, what would you have done with the bags?" He looked at her steadily. "I do not know," he said. "I would like to say I would have found someone to report them to. But I do not know what I would have done if I had not heard you. I only know what I did when I did." She was quiet for a long moment. "That," she said, "is the most honest answer anyone has given me to any question in a very long time. Most people would have performed the virtue for me. You told me the truth about your uncertainty." She paused. "I can work with uncertainty. What I cannot work with is performance." 3 weeks later, she called him. She asked him to come to Lagos, to the Mensa Capital office on the 14th floor. She had a new division, a small business support unit finding and investing in promising micro and small enterprises across the city, providing not just capital but the kind of operational support that, had it existed 4 years earlier, might have saved a small logistics company in Mushin. She needed someone to run it. Not a banker, not a consultant, someone who had built something and watched it fail and understood exactly why, without letting that understanding turn into bitterness. She looked at him across the desk and said something he would carry for the rest of his life. "The road is why I looked," she said. "Your record is why I am offering." He started on a Monday. He was not perfect immediately. He over-explained in early meetings. He was too cautious with the first 3 investment decisions. He hired one wrong person and had to have a hard conversation about it. But he had always been better at correction than most people were at prevention. That was the thing about understanding your failures precisely. You recognize the early signals. You adjust. You move forward. By the end of the first year, the unit had supported 14 enterprises across Lagos. 3 had doubled their revenue. 1 had expanded to a second location. He moved into a small flat in Yaba in his 3rd month. On the first Saturday, he went to the market, bought food, cooked it in his own kitchen, sat at his own table, and ate alone. He sat there long after the plate was empty, not thinking about anything in particular, just sitting in the quiet of a room that belonged to him. Then he called his mother. She picked up on the second ring and said his name the way she always said it, like it was kept somewhere specific and she had been keeping it safe for him. He told her everything. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "I knew," she said. "I always knew something was on its way to you. I just did not know the road it was taking." A year after the Ogun State Road, Zara pushed a folder across the desk to him. A proposal, a full spin-off of the unit into an independent entity. At the top of the organizational structure, in the box marked Executive Director, his name. "This is too fast," he said. "It is the right time," she said. "I did not hire you for where you were. I hired you for where I could see you going." He closed the folder. "All right," he said. She extended her hand. Same handshake as the first one. Against a tree on a dirt road. Formal, direct. Two people acknowledging something real. Before he left, he stopped at the door and turned back. He asked her if that day in the clinic, when she asked what he might have done if he had not hurt her, had been a test. She looked at him. "Testing implies I already knew what answer I wanted," she said. "Reading means I did not know yet and I needed the information." She paused. "A man who claims perfect virtue in every circumstance is either lying or has never been properly tested. You told me you did not know. That told me everything I needed to know about whether I could trust you." He nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "Not for this." He indicated the folder on the desk. "For asking the right questions." She looked at him for a moment. "Thank you," she said, "for being worth asking." Some months later, he sat on the front step of his mother's house in the late afternoon, watching the street the way he had watched it as a boy. His mother came out and sat beside him with 2 cups of tea. After a while, she said, "Do you remember what your father used to say about delivery?" He looked at her. She said, "The package always arrives. The question is only which road it took." He looked at the street and thought about a dirt road in Ogun State and a split bag and a sound from the bush and 40 naira and 14 months and the correct order he was finally getting right. "The package always arrives," he said. His mother patted his knee once. They finished their tea. The street went on around them, loud and entirely itself, indifferent to what it had taken from him and indifferent to what had come back. He sat in the afternoon that was simply his and let the day be what it was. This video is created for inspirational storytelling and entertainment purposes. Names, locations, and certain details have been adapted or fictionalized to protect privacy and enhance the narrative. The story highlights themes of integrity, resilience, and hope. Some scenes involve depictions of hardship and non-graphic injury. Viewer discretion is advised.